Okay, so this question is more of just a review. So you're going to be rating your familiarity or your comfort with scale. And you will notice that I kind of messed with the scale of the lettering here. So, like, this is a thing that you can play around with more in like an art class where you play around with the scale. These letters are deliberately all out of scale. If the letters were in scale, then typically from, if you remember grade 2, way back in grade 2 when you were first learning to write, they would have these like books, and the lines in the books would be like this, and there would be like a dotted line, da, 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 da. And you were always taught that the scale of letters was like this, right? So big letters, A, and then the small letter, A, B, B, and then the next B would be like within that scale. C, C, D, D. This is a consistent scale. Okay? This is what we're looking for, is consistency. I don't expect you guys to be able to come up with a scale to a drafting standard. That is not, we don't have time for that. I learned that in school because the shop teacher in school that I had from grades 7 to grade 11, half of every class he made us do drafting. So basically I did hand drafting for 4 years, and it came in super handy when I went to theater school and became a design student. Everyone was just blown away by how good I was, which is hilarious because I struggled really hard with it because of all my learning disabilities, but it was a thing that he made us learn it. And so I still kind of know how to do it. So scale is also, when you're talking about building, scale is always indicated. So if you think about the example that we had in class, I had shown you guys some blueprints from when we renovated my house, right? And in the bottom left corner, really small, was a little thing, and the scale is always indicated. So scale on any page you make, you must indicate the scale, and I'm going to be picky. I want it to be in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, that's where it goes. The scale that's generally on most construction documents is 1/4 inch. That's how you write inches, equals 1 foot. And this is how you write feet. All right? Now, if this is a review for you and you're laughing, you probably took shop or workplace math, but some of you never took workplace math, which really cheeses me off. I think that everyone should have to take both workplace and foundations in grade 10, because workplace math is the math that you use the most in your actual real life. I have never, ever had to use algebra except to teach it, but I've used workplace math all the time. Anyway, that's my rant. So, your scale is always indicated on the bottom left-hand corner. Now, for the assignments that we're doing, you are going to need to do it in feet and inches. Why do we do that? Well, if you remember, I told you this at the beginning, we all are Canadian, and that means that we're stuck in between Europe and the US. So we follow metric for some things, we follow imperial for other things, because all of our lumber, even though we supply lumber to the States, then we buy it back from them. Sorry. All of our lumber and like all of our construction stuff is all in imperial measurements. So, but an engineer and an architect will have to design it in meters, centimeters, and millimeters. So it gets really confusing. So a lot of architectural drawings, the original drawings are done in metric, and then when you get an architectural drawing that's been converted for contractors, it has to all be converted into feet and inches. And I think I had told you guys the story about my house, the roof of my house. These kind of like, there's these things that they're pre-made kind of joists, right? And 6 of the joists in my house needed to be, we basically got a whole new roof. because it was a 30-year-old house. So our contractor went and he ordered the joists, and he used an app and like for the conversion, because the original drawings were all done in metric, but he had to convert them to imperial. And yes, there are apps to do this, but the reason why you should learn the math is because you should be able to check your math on your app, because this happened. The angle was wrong because he punched in the wrong numbers, and it cost him close to $10,000. Because we weren't, when you're a contractor, and that's another thing about housing jobs, when you're a contractor, you say, I'm going to build this house, and you say for how much money, and you are the one who has to eat the costs. So if you said you were going to build a house for, $60,000, which would be incredibly cheap, let's say it was $100,000, that's what the owner pays you, right? Now, you might actually only spend 80, and including like your labor, your construction costs, everything else. That means that you profited, like your money is the profit you make. That's how contracting works. But the problem is that your mistakes are too. So say you bid and you said, okay, I'm going to do it for this, and you signed a contract. It might have cost you, you had overruns, and now it's going to cost you $1,000 or $10, and you're $200 over budget. You didn't make any profit, and you went in the hole. And there's complexities to those contracts, because when there's huge overruns like that, contractors are supposed to go to the owner and kind of like go through that. And actually, the majority of cases that end up in court have to do with contractors and homeowners not communicating. So there's going to be like a whole thing in that. We're going to do a little unit on like the roles in construction and how you build a house. But I digress. So scale, just to review, the scale for the assignment for the living room is 1 square equals 1 square foot. That is the scale. So if you were doing like the classroom scale exercise and you were counting ceiling tiles, the ceiling tiles were roughly 2 feet by 2 feet. And so if you were counting them all up and you were trying to get how many squares, like how many feet the room was, right? Like if you counted this many, oh, I'm off scale. How did I do that? Oh, because this one was 3 and it should have been 2. See? See how you can get messed up? So actually that was 2, 3, 2. At any rate, if you were counting all this, you could count the squares if it was 2 by 2 and then multiply it by 2 to get how many square feet it was. So let's say I actually did this properly. And it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it would be 6 times 2. It would be 12 square feet. All right. Now, this scale needs to be indicated on your sketch. Where on your sketch? On the bottom left-hand corner. I absolutely insist on this. So, I'm going to just let that be. This is the scale one with a digression. So, the question on the thing is, what is the scale? And where do you put it? Okay, and that's for all, pretty much your whole dream home assignment. So that's question 2.